Hello together. I think we can now start our today's webinar. Maybe you can give me some sign when you can hear me, some short message. I hope you can hear me, and if yes, then we can start. Can you someone write me some message that you can hear me? Okay, perfect, very good. So we will also record the session so that you have it available later. And my idea today is that I show you in the first step some slides. So the topics you can see here is to talk about APS concept. What can be a concept when you implement APS, Advanced Planning and Scheduling, at the customer side. I will give you some information about the advantage if you working with APS and without working APS, and also an idea of so-called, we call it rolling planning concept. That is mainly the idea to work with APS in combination with MRP. And if we implement APS, the first thing we do is to talk about such concepts, and the most common concept is there to have some kind of rolling concept, which means planning with APS, planning with MRP. But yeah, I show you some slides about that, and then the last thing I want to show you is a short live demo. I think the most of you know APS, but maybe there are some features, some things you do not know. So that's my idea, to show you a short example then direct in the system. By the way, my name is Tim Werle. I'm from Boyum IT Solutions. I'm working there as a senior consultant. Yeah, working without APS, we have, of course, also a customer which works without APS. And I think not working with APS has some disadvantages. So if you don't work with APS, you have the normal, of course, a normal backward scheduling available. So as soon as you generate some work order, the system will do a backward scheduling automatically, but of course not considering the capacity limits. So it is against scheduling against infinite capacity. This is one disadvantage you have when you work without APS. That means at the end that you have more or less not 100% correct dispatching on your resource, or you have more dispatching on certain resource that is over 100%. Means also at the other side, with a backward scheduling without considering capacity limits, that means that you can have non-correct dates of requirements, so or wrong dates of requirements, or wrong start dates. That means then wrong dates of requirement in MRP. This can be a problem. Also, the planning of individual work order or changing of some things like delivery day is more complex. This is more than a manual planning. So you have to work with your work order list. You have to take each work order, changing dates, as for example, delivery dates or something else, step by step for every work order. So at the end, there's no batch changing available like we have it in APS. It's more or less manual work in the work order list. You don't have also an automatic planning based on sorting and priority. This is also missing. So there's no automatic planning. It's manual. You have a manual controlling based on your priorities. This is only possible, for example, by using a pool report then, not with a work order list. And at the end, of course, you don't have any graphical planning board without APS. You have the work order list, which is fine, but no graphical overview, no graphical board like in APS. The next slide shows then the workflow. So in this case, without APS, And my example shows that you can have, for example, some sales order. From this sales order, you get one by one. This is then the order-related process manufacturing. A work order, I called it first level because it's then only the work order for the finished product. As you maybe know, you get them then, of course, automatically in your work order list. In this case, the work order list makes this mentioned backward scheduling. And then MRP is considering the start dates of work order list, and that, of course, can be that you, in this case, it can be that you don't have the correct start dates because we have no automatic planning. Through MRP, you can then, of course, normally create additional work order. In my case, this is additional work order for subassembly. This is the reason why I called it second level additional work order. Or you can, of course, create some purchase order. And if you work with the pool report where you can see your coming work orders based on operation, based on resource, you get then the pool report based on the work order list. What happens if we work with APS? Then something changed because you can now use APS, and APS is considering all work orders from work order list. You can have some planning scenario in APS. Inside this planning scenario, you can define which work orders you want to see. One planning scenario, for example, can be that you see only non-planned work order, so only the new work order. In APS, you can do your planning. You can come to your correct start dates. And in my example, you have one scenario where you can plan your work order for the finished product. You get the start date, and the planning goes directly on your work order list. So planning means changing also your start date in the work order list. Then you can start MRP, and MRP is considering then your planned start dates coming from APS. And then you have correct requirements and can create new work orders, for example, and your purchase order. And this new work order goes, of course, directly also in the work order list. And then you can have an additional scenario in APS where you can plan your created work order for the second level of your sub-assemblies. And then you can, again, this will be also considered again in work order list and again in MRP. So this can be the scenario, and at the end you get then in your pool report only your planned work orders. This is also an option in APS that you can have in pool report only this work order which get a planning flag based on APS. It's only an example, but this can be a common scenario we can have when we work with APS and MRP together. And that means then if we take a look on the advantages of APS, we have the possibility in APS to make a backward and a forward scheduling, and here with considering of capacity limits. So I called it finite capacity. So APS is planning against capacity limit, and if you have no free capacity, APS will schedule automatically the next day with free capacity. This is what APS is doing automatically. You see it here, automatic planning and dispatching of resource, and also, and this is additional function APS, of resource groups. So that can be also a scenario that you have resource groups, and then inside the resource groups you have the individual resources, and with APS it's possible to let APS choose the resource which have free capacity, automatic optimization in this case. This is option APS. Then you have then as a result, of course, 100% correct planning of resource. You get an exact date of requirement, which is then again considered in MRP, and MRP is then suggesting on the correct start date new work order or purchase order. And an additional advantage when you work with APS is that you have in APS overview the options to do batch transactions. I will show you that later in the demo. So it's possible in a very fast way to change a status of several work order, or to change start dates, or to change delivery date, or simply also change the work order type from type planned work order to real work order, for example. So there are nice functions in APS you can use. You don't have in the normal work order list or work order overview. Also possible is, and this is also an important tool, to do the planning based on priority. You can do or build some sorting in your table, in your overview in APS. You can change the sorting, and the sorting is directly also the priority. So if some work order is on top on the list, this work order gets then automatically at the first capacity which is available. Also a function of APS, a nice function. You can build this sorting also based on some parameter automatically when you use some SQL or some Bear script, which builds the sorting automatically based on color, based on size, whatever you want to consider. Then we have, of course, a graphical planning board where you can check the capacity and different things in a graphical view. You can switch the planning in a fast way of several work orders. This is more or less the batch transaction. And we can have different scenarios with different views. So one view can be more resource oriented, that you want to see more, consider the resource. The other can be that you concentrate more on the work order structure itself. So different views, different planning scenarios. So, and the last slide, and then comes the demo, is an example of a concept. This is simply one slide. Of course, it's not a complete concept, but it can be a structure of a concept that can be really a common process of some customers. So inside this concept, we say, okay, maybe we have a time horizon for 1 week, can be more or less. We have a workflow and flow. So we create some order, some sales order, for example, in this case, for the finished product, can be based on MRP, can be also, of course, based one-to-one based on sales order. This depends on the requirements. If you have more an make-to-order, make-to-stock process. In a second step, we starting APS. We will take this finished product work order. We'll start the planning. We'll do maybe a backward scheduling that we have a start date as late as possible in this case. Then we get the start dates. In parallel or right after, we can start MRP. MRP is considering this planned work order, is considering our planned start dates. Will of course suggest some tasks to create purchase order for raw materials, or to create some work order for sub-assemblies. Then the next step is, if we create some additional new work order for sub-assemblies, we can go again in a planning view in APS. We will only take the work order from the sub-assembly in this case. This is additional scenario, our scenario 2. We will do here again the planning for the sub-assemblies, and these sub-assemblies will be also again considered in MRP. And then comes the preparation of work. We will set maybe a plan flag. This, based on this plan flag, all work orders goes to a so-called pool list. And if we change something here and go again to MRP, this can be, of course, that we have additional requirements, additional order recommendation from MRP, and then we create additional orders, and then we go back to the planning. This can be then, of course, here a circle. The workload is then possible to view in a so-called pool list. This is a nice function you can run on the terminal, where you can see the planned work orders. So this is only, of course, an example, but we suggest to discuss this with customer, to speak about the workflow, to generate here a concept. Maybe you can additionally to each step, you can document some important informations so that you get at the end a concept, and based on that concept we set up the system and we run APS, MRP and yeah, the ACP and BR system. So my idea now is to show you a small demo. I've prepared some examples where I want to show some features and some things I mentioned here in my slides. So I will switch now to my local SAP system. So yeah, I've prepared some sales orders. That's the starting point I want to begin. So if we now here open my sales orders and I go to some sales order, I would generate here for my finished product, that's my finished product, some work order. Before I do this, I give you some idea of my structure behind. So I will go to my extended structure that you get an idea of my item, and will directly jump from here. Let me show, yeah, in the bill of material. So I have some bill of material. I have here an additional assembly. I have some material. I have, of course, with some quantities. Inside this assembly, I have additional bill of materials, and I have some routings, 3 steps. It's a material allocation with some setup time, some processing time, the production itself, and the final inspection. Of course, here with some resource or some resource groups, which then will be considered in APS and the planning. I need, of course, the time to get the duration. And yeah, I will now do the following. I will make, with a right click, directly create some work order. In this case, it means one by one to my finished product with the quantity 20. So the system will now generate in the background my work order for the sales order and will link it to the sales order. And I have an additional sales order, the previous one, with the same product but with a different quantity of 15. Also here I want to create a new work order for this line with a quantity 15. And yeah, if we now check our work order list, so I will cancel. I will now go to my work order overview. I got 2 new work orders with the finish date or delivery date coming from my sales order. And you see, this is my structure. It's an order related structure. In this case, the system will do a backward scheduling. So starting point of the last assembly is the 2nd of October and will suggest a start date. This is the normal backflashing schedule, the backward scheduling, but in this case, of course, without considering if in this time horizon I have capacity for the different resource. Of course, I can check this manually. I can, for example, open the structure. I see, okay, for this assembling step, I have my machine 2. In this case, I can do a right click and go to the dispatching. Let's go directly in the graphical view, and I get an overview and say, okay, it's fine. But the system will not do and consider if there are additional work order running. You see, if I open this one, I have it more or less in the same time horizon. I have the same schedule, the same work order. So this is what I mean with that. I have a backward scheduling, but against infinite capacity and without any automatically considering of material, of capacity limit. This is what APS can do. So I will do now the following. I will go to APS. We'll come back later to the work order list. Open my APS view. So I have 2 scenarios. I will take this one, the finished product scenario, where I filter only on finished products. Open the planning view. And now you can see my new work orders, these 2 work orders, with the existing dates, and the dates the system was scheduling. by backward scheduling. And with the delivery date, I have to be finished. I want to deliver to the customer. So my idea is now in this scenario to check if I can do this until the 11th and the 10th of October. That's my idea. How can I do it? I can use here the batch functions. I will do the following. I will say I try to start from today or latest tomorrow, but let's say today, and set the start date for these 2 work orders to the 28th of September. By clicking here the icon, the system will do this for all work orders you marked here. So that means this is my planned start date. And now I try to dispatch in a forward scheduling against my delivery date, and I check if I can do it in this timeline. Of course, if I don't have any capacity today, the system will automatically go to the next day or the day or takes then this day which have free capacity. This is APS automatically doing. So every work order which is already scheduled and running in the background is automatically considered. Scheduling only 2 of them now, but if you have running already existing work order, this will be of course considered. So let's see. If I click on calculate, now the system will do the action for both. I mark both. Start. Now the calculation is running. And by the way, of course, through the complete structure, so all levels will be considered because I have order related structure. And now I see, okay, for the first one, I have no problem for the capacity, so I can start. This one is, by the way, this one with a high priority. That's the reason why this one gets first capacity and I can do this. The other one, I can start here, but I'm finished at the 12th. So I have here some problem. I have to do something. This is what I have now the situation. The additional thing, which is APS consider, is the material start. So APS is also considering if some material have some problem you're using based on your bill of material list. So the system is telling, okay, there is one material which is earliest available at the 4th of October. When I do a right click and go into the shortage info, I get an info through the structure which material is already ordered, has to order, or which material has already some purchase order. So also SAP purchase orders will be considered, and the delivery date of this purchase order will be also considered. So I get some information here, and the system is telling me, you see this is an old one that makes no sense, but the system is telling me, okay, this one based on the lead time, it's available if I purchase it today, can be available tomorrow. This one has a lead time of 3 days, so if I purchase it today or tomorrow, I get it at the 4th of October. So what I have to do now, otherwise it makes no sense, can be that I change my start date of the 4th of October. Before I cannot start. So let's change it. That's possible because I set my start in manual. Let's 4th of October. Yes. And then scheduling again. And then you will see, okay, now I have more problems with the capacity. This one is fine. This one is too late. So what can I do? Now I can maybe check why I get some problem here with the capacity. Let's check it, for example, in the graphical view. So we mark only this one and check it here in the graphical view. Let's open the graphical view. So on the left side, you see my assemblies. So 3 assemblies. Behind the assemblies, I have the steps. So, and if I mark and open this one, I see the assembling step. I can mark this and get the information first. Okay, what is my capacity in blue I need? This line shows me the possible capacity per day, in this case 8 hours. And blue shows me, okay, which capacity is needed. In this view, I see, in this case, I have it scheduled on machine 2, but I have additional machine available because I'm working with a group. So I can do the following. One thing is maybe to say I switch this one to machine 3. but then yeah, I think it makes no sense. I cannot start earlier. It's okay. I then don't have any problem with the capacity. Let's go maybe one level up. Check here the capacity. And here you can see, okay, this is something which takes a lot of time. Maybe I can working a little bit faster with this step. I need more or less 3 days. Why not saying, for example, this machine 1, I will work it now not in 1, but maybe in 2 shifts. So what I can do to show you what happened, I go to the machine directly, machine master data, go to the scheduling. Now you see 8 hours per day, but why not saying, okay, I talked with my workers in the production, they now work maybe 2 shifts. So what we can do, we say beginning from this day, I want to schedule, make a new scheduling from the 4th of October until let's say Friday, which is the 6th. I have not 8 hours, I have now maybe 2 shifts, that means 16 hours available. So I click on update, now you see you have the 16 hours, click OK. And now I go back to my table here and say, now I want to do a new scheduling, a calculation, and let's see if now I can hold my delivery date. So let's say calculate, yes. And now the system makes a new calculation. And now you see, okay, now I'm fine. When I work now 2 shifts, I can do this. Sorry, this was my mistake. I have to mark both. I want to consider both. Okay, I have still a problem, but I'm now at the 12th of October. I'm finished 2 days earlier, so I have maybe not a big problem with the delivery date. It's still a problem, but not a big problem. The other thing you can do, you can say, okay, this one has higher priority because the delivery date is earlier. Why not saying changing the sorting, switch on top. So this one is now on top. Then save the sorting and then try again to calculate. And in this case, this one has a higher priority and he will take this one first. Let's calculate. Yes. So now you can do it. This one you can do. Now you have a problem with this one, but only 1 day. So this is simply to show, okay, you have a lot of options. You can switch resource. You can change the capacity. You can also talk with your guys from purchasing. Maybe you get the material earlier here, and then means maybe you can start here at the second because you get it earlier, the material. Then you can calculate, and maybe then you have no problem, and then you are fine. That can be also a scenario. But you have a lot of options. You can do batch changing. And you see it in the graphic. And at the end, what you can do if you are fine here, you can say, okay, now it's great. I'm perfect with them. Go to work order, and they get now a planned flag. So with this flag, it's simply a flag, but it marks all work order as planned. That means you see it here. That means also that if you run your new planning scenario one day later, for example, that this one which are marked with planned will be not considered again because they are planned, they are fine in your with your new planning. So you will also consider the new one. And also if you go back in your work order list, so let's open the work order list, you see also that you got now here the new scheduling, the new times. This comes directly from APS, so we have a direct connection to APS. And you see also that you get here a green flag. This is based on your planned flag you set. So someone who is working here with a work order list sees directly, okay, these are planned. I can print and give it outside to the production. This is also nice, a small but a nice function to see which are planned, which are not planned. And the last thing with a planned flag is that you get now, if you, for example, work with a terminal. So let's see if I have the terminal here. Yes, if you open the terminal and people log in to the terminal, that the people get in the pool list. This is what I mentioned also in the side. Oh, sorry, that was wrong. Let's maybe check if we have something here. Yeah, that you get in the pool list only this operation which gets a blend flag, and of course here with the right scheduling. So this is then the result of your APS planning, of your concept, that the people in production gets the right time, the operations here filtered or sorted by resource with the right starting date, but also only this one which gets the plan flag. So all our work orders which got not the plan flag are not displayed here. So you can have with these tools, with APS, with the flag, with MRP, you can build a nice workflow inside the system. Okay, this is just a small overview to give you an idea, to motivate you to work with APS. Really important is APS is of course a big tool, but really important is to have a concept. And if you have a clear concept on paper, you can set up APS, and then you have you can build some nice scenario where you can do really a nice planning inside SAP. Yes, I'm finished so far. I think now we have time for questions. So I try to unmute all. Let's see. It's unfortunately not possible. I don't know why. But maybe you can try to unmute yourself. And feel free to ask. I will stop the recording now.